What's up everybody, blessed be, my name is Manon and you are watching Witch in the Working, where we will be discussing all things witchy in and around, throughout and about, above, below, and beyond. Please visit me on my other platforms as well, including Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon, all linked down in the description below. The official script to this video and most of the others will also be available on my Patreon account for download if desired. Also, please visit my Shopify store, also listed in the description below, to get your Witch in the Working shirts, mugs, bags, beanies, or what have you. There's a plethora of different types of magic and spell workings that we have at our disposal as witches and magicians. Candle magic, poppets, sachets, group magic, solo magic, color magic, servitors, elemental magic, sympathetic magic, high magic, low magic, etc., etc. The list goes on and on, I mean, a good deal. Sympathetic magic is definitely the oldest form of magic that exists that we as humans know of, and this is the magic of like attracts like. However, coming in at a close second is the magic that we will be discussing on this episode of Witch in the Working, and this is the utilization of talismans, amulets, and sigils. So relax, sit back, and if you wish, break out your BOS or notepad and get ready to learn about some of the more interesting subjects of the craft, if you ask me, because this is also, this stuff also incorporates some ceremonial magic in its wake. So let's get into it and roll the intro. Welcome back everyone. So as I mentioned, talismans, amulets, and sigils represent some of the oldest recorded magic since early man has had the mindset to incorporate the shadows of magic into their lives, to assist with daily biddings and even at times to win favor from the gods. Talismans and amulets can be a confusing subject as many tend to intertwine the two, not realizing that they are two different beings and beasts altogether. They do have their similarities in certain aspects and traits in common, but nonetheless two very different monsters to deal with. Sigils are their own thing and world altogether, but definitely tie in with the talismans and amulets as a practice, especially talismans. Let's go ahead and dive into each of these items and practices to learn a little more about what we're going to be dealing with. Let's start with talismans. A talisman is any object ascribed with religious or magical powers intended to give a power to a person or situation at hand. Talisman, when created, charged, activated, and worn, will give an extra boost of power and energy to, for instance, a person who's looking for some extra strength or confidence or luck or cunningness or what have you. Talismans are a type of personal amplifier that will enhance certain energies that it is programmed to interact with. They can be implemented for many reasons, even for fertility, for instance. Basically, anything you would do a magical working for can also be done with a talisman if you choose it. Like I mentioned earlier, talismans have been in existence since man can remember. The word talisman translates from the ancient Greek telesma, meaning completion, religious rite, payment. A talisman is usually a single piece of jewelry, parchment, or a piece of metal, for instance. For the most part, but not always, a talisman is usually a man-made object that is infused with magic to carry out its essence to the bearer. Many times a talisman will have writing inscribed upon it. This writing throughout history, especially on talismans unearthed in Islamic countries, will have religious verses and encouragements inscribed upon them. Many of the Islamic faiths today still create and wear talismans, most of a religious concept and background as for their creation. In the craft and occult world, many times these writings that can be found upon talismans of all different shapes and sizes are usually inscribed with a runic alphabet or even a sigil drawn upon the talisman somewhere, either inside or outside the object, depending on the witch's means and preferences. In a way, the many crosses that those of the Christian faith wear are a type of talisman, for most utilized to encourage their faith in the Christian God. Same reasoning, many of us wear pentagrams for many different reasons, but most as a representation of our faith and understanding of our pagan ways. In fact, some pentagrams can be considered amulets, but we will cross that bridge in a few moments. One of the most common talismans that everybody has learned about from usually a very young age is the infamous rabbit's foot. How many of you have had a rabbit's foot keychain when you were a kid, meant to bring good luck to the one who possesses and wears it? Other talismans would be a horseshoe for luck, a four-leaf clover, the Italian horn, the Egyptian ankh, a shark tooth or a large cat claw or eagle's feather. There's so many little things that can be, made into talismans. Some people develop a talisman of sorts and don't even realize that they're practicing a magic. For instance, when an athlete ends up wearing that favorite cap to each game, regardless of how time-worn it becomes and how ragged it gets because it brings, good luck he feels. Or maybe wearing your lucky socks to a job interview. All a form of talisman many don't even realize. And this is a talisman that a dear friend of mine made for me about 20 years ago. Which is basically bone and some tusks from a boar, I believe. Okay, so let's move on to amulets. Amulets are very simply the opposite of talismans in their idea and function. Amulets are usually an object that is empowered to receive and block negativity for the wearer, a form of protection, so to speak. Amulets have been worn throughout the centuries by hundreds, if not thousands of cultures throughout the millennia, and remain to be worn to this day by cultures and religions around the globe. So in essence, an amulet is meant to receive energy coming in to embrace and dissipate it, and a talisman is meant to project energy to the wearer to influence and empower the person with extra energy for whatever he designs it to do. Many common amulets we see all the time are, again, for some the pentagram and even for some the cross. That blue evil eye that a lot of us get, I forget what they call it, we see so common that are sold in all the new age stores nowadays. Strings with knots tied in them, as knots are known to entangle negative energy. Many times an amulet is also a natural stone or gemstone that is especially and specifically programmed to protect the wearer from negative energies that may be aimed or conjured upon the unsuspecting victim. An amulet can even be a small sachet with multiple stones and or trinkets within it, thus worn around the witch's neck or even in a pocket. Also, just as a talisman, an amulet can also be a natural trinket such as animal teeth or bone of sorts. The main thing to take away from this, again, is that the main difference between a talisman and an amulet is that an amulet protects and is therefore meant to receive incoming negativity so it can ward it away. And a talisman projects energy to the carrier to emphasize whatever trait the talisman is programmed to accomplish. So we learned briefly what a talisman and an amulet are. So what is it of this sigil stuff, that I've been talking about along with it? This is very simple. A sigil is an inscribed or painted symbol considered to have magical power. Thankfully, in a few moments, I'm going to teach you a few methods for creating a sigil. So keep your asses in your seats and don't go anywhere for you because it's a really great way to give some extra power and oomph to your magical workings. Just like talismans and amulets, types of sigils have been in use by ancient cultures for thousands of years, as far back as the Neolithic era it's recorded. Sigils are very simple in definition, but not so simple in creation. I'll show you a few ways though, how to make it easy and fun and very powerful for your workings and however you decide to utilize them. Some of the most famous sigils were created through ceremonial magicians over the last few hundred years. Many of us have heard about the Lesser Key of Solomon, in which the book teaches about conjuring and captivating one or more of a list of 72 demons that range from kings to princes to dukes and marquises and counts. It is said that the King of Solomon had captured these 72 jinn and imprisoned them into a brass vessel, which he then threw into the sea. Each one of these demons has a personal sigil or seal, so to speak, and when utilized with the specific conjurations in the book, it's said that it's possible to call forth these demons to do your biddings and whatnot for you. I myself have worked with some of these demons, certainly not all, with a group of magicians I've worked with over the last few years. It's a very interesting concept in practice, but definitely not for the meek and lighthearted, so I do not recommend you dabble in this unless you're ready to possibly bring something into your life that you can't necessarily get rid of without the correct magical muscle backing you up. Not just demons are communicated with utilizing these seals. Angels and other beings are also brought into play when utilizing seals and sigils. Even when working with familiars, witches familiars, the spirit type, not the physical ones as a cat, a dog, or a frog, a sigil is utilized. Actually, a few sigils in my practice best to work with these familiars. So why am I bringing up sigils that have nothing to seemingly do with talismans and amulets? Well, because in the case of talismans, sigils can play a really great part in their creation. So when you're creating and empowering a talisman, you can actually draw a sigil on the talisman to empower it with the energy you wish the talisman to exude upon you in your everyday life. For instance, if you make a talisman to help you focus better in life situations, then one of the best ways to empower this talisman is to actually design, create, and draw this sigil onto the talisman itself, utilizing the simple power word of focus. So what more can I say about the sigil? Not much. So let's go ahead and shoot over to the drawing board so I can teach you how to create a magical sigil that you can use as a seal for your talisman, or a witchy tool as well. As you can also use sigils to empower your working magical witchy tools if you wish. We have them as guardians on many of our tools, though they are engraved from a traditional standpoint, not a personal one. So without further ado, let's shoot on over and get started. So for this example of a sigil, we're going to pretend that I am making a talisman to help put out and exude energy to me in the essence of success. So for a power word, I'm going to use the word successful. You can use multiple words if you need to, but I would recommend keeping it down to at the most 3 words. For instance, successful business, or just successful, or success in sports, or what have you. Next, we are going to cross out all of the vowels in the word and also any double letters. What we are ultimately left with in this example is the letters S, C, F, and L. The next step is to take the letters that you have left over and begin to incorporate them together to design a sigil. Combine the letters with each other, touching and evolving into a design that can be as simple or elaborate as you wish, as long as it incorporates the letters from our power word or statement, and they are all folded and blended together as shown. But most important, that it is aesthetically pleasing to you. When you're finished with your design, you can draw a circle or a square around it if you wish to complete it. I personally like putting a circle around mine. This is my favorite way to create a sigil, but there are many other ways. Doing a search on Google and YouTube, you'll find dozens of ideas, but most take this form and the form of the next 2 I'm going to be showing you. I actually learned the next 2 from Hearthwitch, and the templates I actually downloaded from a link on her video about talismans and amulets. So thank you, Hearth, for the templates. I have them linked also in this video in the description below as well for those who want to use them. This next method utilizes a letter to number system to create your sigil as shown. If we take our letters from our power word, S, C, F, and L, using this chart, we can assign each letter a number. In this case, S, C, F, and L translate into 1, 3, 6, and 3 again. This square of numbers, 1 through 9, can now be utilized to trace out a simple but powerful sigil. At the start of your sigil, you should start with a circle in the first box, in this case, the number 1. When you end, in this case number 3, draw a perpendicular slash across the end of your line as shown. This is what the sigil will look like when you take it off the grid. The next method utilizes the same concept except keeping it to the letters. You don't have to use the English alphabet. You can also use runes or even the Theban alphabet as shown here. So this is my sigil for success, a taper candle and my chosen talisman. Now let's empower it. Consecrate your talisman first if you wish. For those of you who need help with this, see my video on consecrating tools and items linked up in the right corner and also down in the description below. I simply utilize a candle, preferably with the color that corresponds with the intention at hand, or universally, you can just use white. I also like to draw power words and images onto my candle, as well as the sigil itself onto the candle. Next, light the candle and place it on top of the sigil and talisman. Put some energy into it as well at this point, and let the candle burn down and out, or until you feel comfortable that all is empowered and juicy. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of What's in the Working. Do you own a talisman or amulet? What is it used for? Do you work with sigils? Do you have a method you would like to share? Let us all know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, and be sure to ring that little bell to be reminded of future exciting episodes to come. I love you guys and gals, and blessed be.